So Phil asked me to do this a week ago. Now I've got a couple of talks, but he asked me to talk about vulnerability today. Because me and Phil go back quite a long way and we've shared a lot of vulnerability. So this is something I've run with a couple of members of staff. It went down really well, and I did a bit at network group last week to some B2C guys, about 20 of them. So ask your first question. So it's a talk you'll have never had before. You know, I know a few of you in here, and I'm quite comfortable speaking like this with people that are in here, but the rest of you, the ones I don't know, I might have to nip out to the toilet in a minute. So, just a quick show of hands. Who's really happy?
All the time.
Right, so I've got 6 out of the room. I don't know what we got. Let's say we got 20%. No, it's low anyway, the people that are really happy. So, I googled the English definition of happiness. And we got some stragglers. Get the stragglers in. So just before
you have to show them that slide again.
Yeah, just before you come in, so we won't let anybody else in now. Yeah, sit down, mate. I asked people if they were, so we're all looking at you two now. I won't tell you what the results were for the rest, but are you really happy? We had a poll to see who was really happy. Oh, we're sort of half and half, okay. Well, anyway, it was really low. I think we had 5 or 6 people in the room that were happy. You can work out the odds yourself. So I googled what happiness was. So this is the Oxford English Dictionary of what happiness is. It's a feeling that comes over you when life is good and you can't help but smile. Smiling? Yeah, there's a little bit of it. Happiness is a sense of well-being, joy or contentment. When people are successful or safe or happy, they feel happiness. Okay, so this is where it goes a little bit dark now. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Mark Matthews, my company's atg-it. I've been an IT dealer since 1989. So this is my 30th year in business. And about 5 years ago, this is exactly how I felt. I was not happy. I'd had enough. I was losing customers, I was losing staff, I was earning money, but I still wasn't happy. You know, I had a conversation with somebody today, you know, I was blagging it. You know, or so I thought I was blagging it. I didn't know what I'd got to do, but that's how I felt. And one day, I was driving to work on the M42, and sorry, that's the M40. I was driving to work on the M40 at that exact junction to work. And I'm in my Range Rover.
You can't be losing that much money then.
But I started to cry on the way to work. And at the time, I was really bothered and really upset. Obviously, I'm crying. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason is. Now, luckily, my dad's a counsellor. So I phoned him up and said, can you help me out here? I'm crying. I think in my head life's okay. Why the hell am I crying on my way to work? And he went, Mark, get yourself home, get Becky, your wife, to phone the doctors, get your doctor's appointment. I had my best mate's son jump out of a 3rd floor window the weekend, and he's a manager at IBM. Didn't really think much of it then. Okay, all right, I'll turn back home, dried the tears up, got home, said to my wife, can you book me a doctor's appointment? Yeah, I live in a really little village, so believe it or not, I was in by 10 o'clock. So I'm in by 10 o'clock, I'm sitting to the doctor, and he starts asking me a load of questions. And he's putting numbers and scores next to these questions that I'm being asked. And at the end of it, you know, there's a lot. Well, it's normally 10 minutes in with the doctor. I was there an hour. So you can imagine all the people sitting out there waiting for the appointment 10 minutes after I went in going, what the bloody hell's wrong? So I'm there, and he turned around, and his last thing he said to me was, he says, hey, you've got clinical depression. Okay, you know. You know, just nothing, I didn't really know. I didn't know any friends with depression. I didn't know much about it at the time. I can't have depression, I'm a business owner. I've got to get back to work. It'll collapse without me, what's going on? So, but the thing that struck me was, and he said 3 words, well, 4 words, have you got a shotgun at home? And I went, why? He says, because we've had 3 people in the village that own companies that have committed suicide in the last 2 years and took their own lives with their shotguns. Whoa, really? You think I'm that bad? From crying on the way to work for no apparent reason, you now think I'd take my own life? Shit, this is serious. I need to sort this out. Wow. So anyway, I got given a load of tablets. Some of which, being a man, I didn't take because, you know, I'll just do it on my own. It doesn't bother me. So I went home, told my wife, who, to be fair, is probably the happiest person in the world, wants for nothing, she's quite happy with her life. She doesn't understand why I'd be crying on the way to work or why I'm depressed. It's not like I've got illness, my kids are all fine, I've got a business that's on the surface and the outside doing okay. I had 6 months off work, on and off. I'd go in for a couple of hours, I'd come out. I'd go in, I'd come out. Nobody at work knew. I put a general manager in to run it at the time, who's a friend who I found out later had depression. I got him to run the business. The business sort of flatlined at that time. I'd go and do a bit in work, but as soon as I walked out of those doors at work, it was like the weight was lifted off my shoulders as I got into the car. And it was like the best feeling in the world that I've got out of that company now, I'm in my car and I drive home. And I felt great as soon as I wasn't at work. And this picture here, it's not me, it's a stock picture. And this shocks me now, 4.5 years later, that the catalyst for then, those of you that are here that have known me a long time, to turn into what I am now, is the fact that on this day, this particular day, which is about 6 months in, I put the covers on my head and I actually didn't care if I didn't wake up tomorrow. That's how bad it got from running a business for 25 years. This is a saying that I sort of come up with, I've added to myself. You know, that was the end of old Mark. There will come a time when you believe that everything is finished. At that time, at that particular moment, everything was finished. I didn't care about my house, my kids, my wife, nothing. For some reason, they call it flight or fight. The very next morning, I woke up and went, right, things have got to change. That will be the beginning. So I started then and I went back to work. And I was determined that, A, it wasn't everybody else that was the problem, it was me that was the problem, and I needed to change. Whatever that was. You know, not doing the 70 hours that I was doing, not doing every job, not looking in around in finance or tech or sales, not getting involved in everything. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what things had got to change. Because the doctor had asked me if I've got a shotgun. I had a rifle, I didn't have a shotgun. But, you know, I'm sure that would have done me some damage as well. But the fact that I then realised that I couldn't go on with how I was. Things had got to change. So I went back to work, and it was a slow process. So I'm now 5 years in to where I am now. 4.5 years from, or 5 years from the day that I was sort of crying on the motorway to work. Okay, so it's my start of a new chapter. Now, I haven't read a book since Janet and John at school. Now, believe it or not, I googled Janet and John books at school. You know, the 1970s Janet and John books. These are genuine books, I promise you. Pylon tree houses. I put them up here because I thought I'd try and lighten the mood a little bit. Pylon tree houses. Little Willie Pet Killer. Your first path to serial killers. This book, that's what set me off into IT, probably. But I haven't read a book, and you can actually go and buy second-hand copies of these from 1970 now. They were there. And there's some unbelievable ones about your mum and a milkman and all sorts that are around. Genuinely. I thought they were made up. Steve works for these things that they're photoshopped. They're not, you can go and buy them. And the reason I put this is I'd never read books. It was just something I'd never done. I probably hadn't got the time in my 70 hours that I was working a week. One day on my doorstep, I had this book arrive from nobody. You know, obviously it was from somebody, but Amazon just delivered me this book. And I looked and thought, I don't know why it wasn't that thick. I've got, you know, I was low self-esteem. What am I doing? I'm looking for what my next thing is. I've got to do something. I can't be depressed anymore. I'm on tablets. Things need to change. This just came through the post. Now, whether it was fate or what, I don't know. But this is a book about an American postman that if he knew you were on holiday and he saw your newspaper sticking out your door, even though he wasn't delivering post to you that day, he'd go and push the newspapers in. If UPS, it's in the States, had delivered a parcel outside your house and he knew you were away or you were shopping or something, he'd go and either put it in his van and bring it back when you were in, or he'd put it around the back of your house so it wouldn't be seen, so that, you know, burglars wouldn't know that you wasn't in. And I read this book, and as I'm reading it, I'm going, well, yeah, I'm like that. But my low self-esteem that I got at the time, even though I was employing 17 people, said that I was a bad person, I'm blagging it, you know, I was totally negative about myself all the time. When I read this, I went, actually, God, this is a book about a guy that's, you know, a prize-winning postman. I'm just like him. Wow, well, that's interesting. And that was a bit of a catalyst then. Well, hold on, maybe you're not as bad. Maybe you're just hard on yourself. Because I think a lot of us are. We're hard on ourselves for stupid reasons, to be fair. I was later to find out that this was actually sent to me by Phil Morgan. So, you know, now he was the MD of Network Group, and I'm on the exec of Network Group. He's now obviously the MD of Continuum, but he sent me this with nothing. He just sent it because he thought that it would do me some good. And it's a cracking book. We actually make all of our staff read it. It's part of their induction now. Now, the people that are in here that know me, or if you just see me at Network Group or CompTIA or any of the other places that we go and talk about, or, you know, we've got some vendors in here as well, you would have never known there was anything wrong with me. At all. It was impossible for you to know because I wear a mask. And some of us all wear masks. And the first thing we've got to do is remove the mask and be honest and truthful to ourselves. But I was never honest and truthful with myself. And you would have never seen any of my suffering. I certainly would have never stood up here and told you anything about it. Because if I did, what do I think you'd have done? You'd have ridiculed me. You'd have took the piss. You'd have thought I was weak. I wasn't worthy. Oh my God, you're a boss and you feel like that? Well, you're not good enough to be a boss. Or you'd have kept it for one day to when I was weak and you'd have come and kicked me back again with it. So now, this is our bookcase at work. I mean, these I don't read here because these are technical books down this side, but these are all the books. I've read now over 90 books. There's only about 7 or 8 that I think are worthwhile reading. Actually, it's about 10 in total. But this book really resonated. It's about the 3rd or 4th book. It's on my top 10 book list. But this guy here, Patrick Lencioni, he writes about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. If you want to grow a business at all, and you want to do anything other than muscle and feel, and what I mean by muscle and feel, it's a HTG phrase. So I'm in HTG, as some of you will know that. Muscle and feel means I'm going over there with a business. I don't know why I'm going over there, but I just feel that it's the right thing to be doing. And my strength and my determination is going to get me over there. Hell or fire, I'm going that way. I don't really know why I'm going though. If you want to get away from running like that, you have to get trust into your business. But not just any sort of trust, you have to get emotional trust. And show vulnerability to your staff. Especially at the size that I think a lot of us are in this business. I'm not talking about if you Continuum, but you know, when you're 10, 20, 30, 40 staff, you need to have trust in you guys, and you guys need to be able to trust you. So, Patrick talks about that if you've got the absence of trust in your business, then you can't have conflict. If you can't have conflict in your business, and that's disagreeing with people, you can't have commitment of staff. If you can't have commitment, then you can't have accountability. If you haven't got accountability, you'll never get results. You can do the muscle and feel for so much, and you can get. We got to 2.6 million on muscle and feel. How we did, and it's just through sheer determination we're getting there. There was no process, there's no rhyme and reason how the hell we got there. It was just because my sheer determination we're going to get there. So Patrick talks about the fact that you must have these. And the first biggest one is trust. And in any business, you've got to have trust. And the best way to get it, it starts with emotional trust. So I'm now going to attempt to play a quick video, which is a 5-minute video. It's embedded, so it should.
I once worked with a CEO who's a famous guy. You've seen his picture on many national, international magazines. He's very famous. I worked with him when he was at a previous company, and to be quite frank, he was not a great leader. But he was brilliant and intimidating and famous.
Sorry, this is
And
Patrick.
so nobody on his team in this company ever disagreed with him. And the head of human resources, God bless her, went to this guy and said, listen, nobody ever tells you when they disagree. You're not benefiting from the opinions of the people on the team. You have to do something. And they agreed to do 360 feedback, to get feedback from the team, which is sometimes a good idea, sometimes not. Well, they asked my little firm to administer this 360 feedback tool to get feedback from his team. So we did, and we collected all the information from his team members. And then we gave him the results, and he proceeded to share those results with no one. And so finally, the head of results with your team, they're curious as to what they learned from what you learned. And he said, okay, I'll do it at the next staff meeting. And then he reluctantly, begrudgingly allowed me as an outsider who administered the tool to observe this meeting. And so I sat off to the side on a little chair that had wheels on the bottom of it, which will become relevant here in just a second. And he stood up and he said, okay, it says here I'm not a very good listener. Huh. What do you guys think? And they went around that table and said, well, I think you're a good listener. I do too. I think you're good. I don't think you're a bad listener. I don't have a problem with that. I think you're a fine listener. So do I. And I remembered, because I'd only written one book at this point in my career, and I thought, I could never put this in my books. Nobody would believe this, right? So he said, okay, good, good. The next one here says I'm not a very good, I don't give enough feedback or praise. Huh. I thought I'd gotten better at this. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think you're great at it. I think you've gotten much better. I don't think there's a problem. All the way around the table. And this is where, and I laugh about it now, but I remember this well, I was sitting there on my chair thinking, if I have any integrity as a consultant, this is where I have to lose a client or put one in jeopardy, right? So I got on my little chair and I was like, eek, eek, eek. And I remember this well, I'll never forget it. I rolled up right next to this famous CEO and I said, excuse me, but you guys are the only people who filled this survey out, so somebody had to write this. Very quiet in the room. So the head of marketing, poor guy, slowly raised his hand, said, yeah, I think you could give more. I'd like to get more, I mean, my team would like to get more feedback and praise from you. And you know, they only hear from you if they screw up, and I think it'd be nice if you told them if they did something well. So, yeah, I think that, I wrote that on my form, I can vouch for that. I think you could improve in that area. Silence. Till the head lawyer goes, not me, I think you get plenty of praise. Everybody else says, what are you talking about? They killed the guy. I'm melting, I'm melting. Now the moral of that story is this. That's the day, first of all, that CEO lost all credibility. Secondly, it's when that's how he sent a message to the team, I'm never going to be vulnerable, you guys shouldn't be either. You know, eventually that company spun out of control and went out of business, or sold off for a fraction of its worth. You know what the Wall Street Journal said? They had strategic problems. They had some errors in their product. But those were downstream symptoms of the real problem. The real problem was that there was no trust on that team. And it started with the leader who couldn't be vulnerable. Now, he didn't have to do anything weird. All he had to do is stand up there and say, hey, you guys, I know I've got some issues. I've heard about this in performance reviews throughout my career, and well, my wife tells me this once a week or so, and I know that I'm not great at it. I'll give it a shot. I'll try to get better. I don't know that I'll ever be great, but I'm going to try, and I appreciate your feedback. That's all he had to do. But he stood there instead like the emperor with no clothes, with his big old bottom hanging out, like, how do I look, guys? And they're like, you look fine, boss. And everybody said, don't admit you've got problems.
It just shows how powerful vulnerability and having trust is in your business. That, you know, from my experience, if you want to grow and get better, get more staff, earn more money, then you need to have trust at work. Not just ordinary trust, you need to have emotional trust. Yeah, don't trip over. Which can only come through vulnerability. But as I said, we don't like doing vulnerability because we think one day it will bite us back in the backside. Okay. And to start this process, a lot of us are leaders, but to start this, first of all, we have to lead. Lead means going first, like I have today. So I've been vulnerable to people that I don't actually know. Some I do. I don't know which one's worse, if I'm honest, but I did that today, and you know what? Maybe you think you couldn't do it. Maybe you think you couldn't do that because for somehow you're different. You're special in some way. Your teams, I don't understand your process, your companies. Well, from what I've just done, do you think I'm weak for doing it? You know, there's a few heads knocking, knocking. I don't think I'm weak. I think it's one of the most powerful things that you can do in your business. And I've seen it, so I ran through this with a couple of people. So when I was first asked to do the talk, I couldn't work out what I was going to speak about. And I ran it through with a girl that's been with me for 6 months. And I ran it through with a tech that's been with me for 4 years. I normally don't have much to do with them because their managers look after them. I've got no reason to speak to them other than to say hello and be pleasant to them. So I asked them if they'd come and just listen to what I was going to talk about. And I didn't do the slides, I just spoke to them. As soon as I'd finished, the one tech guy said, well, I just want to let you know, since my wife had a miscarriage at Christmas, I've been on antidepressants. Wow, I didn't know that. He felt comfortable enough to tell me, because I'd gone first and I'd been vulnerable to him, so he felt like I wouldn't take what he's told me and ridicule him in some way. And the girl told me about some issues that she's got with the doctors. Wow. And I said to her, well, why do you feel comfortable, saying this now? And she says, well, what I've realised is, you're just the same as us. Well, yeah, of course I am. But we, us as bosses, we're not necessarily thought that way by our staff that are in our care. And you've got the same problems as we have. And I feel comfortable now speaking to you. Can you imagine if all the problems that you had in the business that the staff don't talk about, or they leave, or they do something to us. Imagine if they just come and told you what they are because they knew you wasn't going to go and hit them with a stick. And that's what she says. You're not like other bosses. You don't hit people with a stick. Right, okay. All our other bosses had. All our other bosses had. So if you don't think I'm weak, then it's something maybe that you could do. So what do you think would change if you had trust and vulnerability in your business? Now, I did this network group for 20 people last week, and I didn't have any hands, and any people put their hands up. So I've got a selection of things that have happened in my business since we've been running to this trust and vulnerability in our business. So does anybody want to suggest anything which means you being vulnerable, which could mean we'll all ridicule and laugh at you when you give your answer? What do you think if you had emotional trust and vulnerability in your business and you showed that as a leader? Does anybody want to pose anything that might be better for your business?
I'd say that the understanding that shit happens.
Yeah.
A cyber breach probably will happen on our watch. Might happen yet. But
So truth in the room. Anything else?
I mean, you build a stronger team, eh?
Team build, yeah, 100% definitely. Well, as we time, this is what's happened to us. This is our lists. So our staff field included. You know their strengths and the weaknesses. You'll have a newfound openness and honesty in the workplace that was never there before. Staff feel empowered. Staff retention will increase. We haven't lost a member of staff for 4.5 years now, which is quite unheard of from what it was before. 4.5 years, all staff have been with us. It creates a caring environment. I recently went on with Pete that was speaking yesterday, the American guy. I was in London with him last month on a HR conference, and the HR conference was all about culture. That's what the millennials and the people that are going to jobs in London, they don't give a monkey. Well, I'm sure they care what money they're paid, but the biggest things and the biggest questions they were asking was when they got the job, they were interviewing other staff members in their company to check that what the boss had said was true. It was all about what the culture was in the workplace. Not if you've got a table tennis table, Not if there's free vouchers on a Friday and go for lunch. It was all about what the sense of family, the sense of caring that there was in the business, which really shocked me, that that's how it had turned. You know, because years ago I used to think all people come to work for was money. That's certainly not the truth. So. This is probably one of the biggest things now. I feel comfortable now with going, you know what, I don't know. And that's okay. Because we've got this truth in the room and trust. I know they're not going to ridicule me if I say I don't know. For years I just watched documentary programmes so I knew everything. Because then when I got a question I thought as the boss I'd got to have the answer. No, your team are there, they'll have the answer. Most of mine are graduates and they're a lot cleverer than what I am. Still feel like it's not for you? Since I've had emotional trust, I used to work 70 hours a week, I'm now doing 26. I finish at 3 o'clock every day and I leave at lunchtime on a Friday because I go and take my wife out for lunch. And I've done that for about the last 2 years. My guys know that, so I've gone from sneaking out my office and not saying anything, which made me feel guilty because I've snuck out my office, which is stupid really, to actually now the guys go, oh, we've got an appointment on Friday, but you won't be in it because you won't be there. And actually, even though if I'm at 3, if I've got nothing to do, I'll go home. And I don't feel guilty for going home. Because as a boss, I'm probably thinking of something of a night anyway. And I'll be Googling or whatever I do, you know. So that's one big thing. So that's great, 26 hours a week. Lost no staff. There you go, 24% turnover increase last year. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, it's all right. Nothing to rave home about. That is though. We grew 110% net profit last year on the year before. Wow, that's serious growth. You know, people are happy with 20% year on year. VC funding, they'll be happy to deal with you doing 20% year on year on year. We did 110%. And we're on target this year at the first quarter. We've already smashed the targets already. With me doing less hours.
Can I be your general manager?
That one's not there anymore. That one served its purpose at the time. And I've got 3 directors now. And I have plans in that in 2022 I will be retiring and they know what that number is to get me to leave and go, etc. So. We've won multiple industry awards. So last week at Network Group was probably the best award that I've ever won. It was Inspirational SMB Leader of the Year award, and that was the one that sort of says everything I'm doing with my speaking and the Chris Guy stuff and this, that just put it right there for me. That was the most humbling thing that I've had. But the best thing of all, the absolute best thing out of all that, because this money means nothing. The time, fair enough. You know, having your own time to do what you want is great, but I've gone from that dark, cloudy person that was on about the 3rd slide to I'm the happiest I have been in years. Wow. And me and Nigel here, we used to be really quite, we're sort of competitors, but he's moved to Cheltenham now. When he was in Worcester, we'd come across each other every now and then. And we met up once and he gave me we spoke about it in the lift this morning, he gave me a passage. And can you remember what it was called?
It was called The Struggle for me.
The Struggle. If you go and Google it at some time, or I'll put it on my Twitter or Facebook, when you read it, you go, oh my God, that's been written about me. You remember we spoke about, and this was years ago we spoke about that. So I'm the happiest I've ever been. Wow. So, how do you start? Well, the first thing you've got to do is take your own mask off, stop believing in your own, can't think of anything other than bull. Look in the mirror and go, right, I want to change. All things have got to change. I got to the stage where things have got to change. Do it before the doctor says if you've got a shotgun at home. Because that's then you're on a long road then. I'm 5 years in doing it. So, look in the mirror, look that you want to change, go and watch as much as you can about Patrick Lencioni online. There's tons of his stuff out there. There's absolutely tons of it. That was just a small clip of a conference that he did that I showed. And it was more to show the effect of having vulnerability in the workplace. You know, because you don't get the truth out of your staff because they just blow smoke at your backside all the time. So, go and read 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. There's massive exercises online that tells you how to follow the full process